Am I the asshole if I call off my engagement because of a comment my fiance made about my late wife? For some background info, I, 43 male, have 2 children with my late wife, Kayla. Sam, 21 male, and Liz, 16 female. Kayla passed away when our kids were 15 and 10. I won't give specifics about how she passed, but she was struck by a drunk driver when she was on her way home from work. She really was the love of my life, and to say that her passing hit our family hard would be an understatement. I promised myself that if I got back into the dating game, I wouldn't date anyone for at least a couple of years for the sake of my kids. 3 years after my wife's passing, I met my now fiance. We'll call her Amanda. Things went slow, and I didn't introduce her to my kids until we had been dating for about a year at that point. Now we've been together for 3 years and are engaged. Amanda and my kids have always had a good relationship. Neither of my kids are super close to her, but they've always been friendly and welcoming to her. And Amanda has never overstepped any boundaries my kids have, like trying to replace their mother. At the beginning of Amanda and I's relationship, she was a bit insecure of the fact that I was a widower. During the first few months of us dating, she would constantly ask things like, if Kayla had never passed, would I still be with her right now? I always kept my answers brief and told her that I didn't like thinking about the what ifs and that she was the one I was dating now and that was what mattered. Eventually, she stopped making these comments and I stopped worrying about it. Now on to the issue. My parents were hosting a family dinner to celebrate my fiance and I's engagement. It was my mom and dad, my late wife's sister and her husband, Sam and Liz, and me and Amanda. Dinner was going well. We were all making small talk with each other and talked about wedding plans. About halfway into dinner, my mom made a comment about how she was so happy I was able to find the spark I had with Kayla in someone else. I don't think anybody really paid much attention to the comment, but then Amanda laughed and said, quote, I'm happy she died. Otherwise, I would have never have gotten him to myself. The tone of the dinner immediately shifted, and everyone got extremely tense, especially my kids. Amanda noticed the shift and started awkwardly laughing like she was trying to play off her comment as a joke. I was honestly just frozen, as that was the first time she had ever made a comment like that. My kids looked disgusted, and Liz got up and walked out to her car. Sam waited a bit longer, like he wanted me to say something, but I was still in shock about what Amanda had said. To make a long story about the dinner short, the dinner was kind of ruined. So I said my goodbyes to everyone, grabbed my fiance, and we all drove home. My daughter hasn't spoken to me or Amanda since, and it's been 3 days. I got tired of it and pulled my son aside to ask him what I should do. He said something along the lines of, quote, I'm a grown man and don't care who another grown man marries, but I don't want a woman who speaks like that about our mother around my sister. Sam's comment stuck with me, and now I'm considering calling off the engagement entirely. She's never made comments like this before, but I'm worried if I let it slide this one time, it will become more frequent and it will affect my daughter. I need some advice from outside perspectives and just want to do right by my kids. Would I be the asshole if I called off the engagement because of the comment she made?
My twin sister and I had babies 4 days apart. Some of you are probably wondering, how the F did you plan that? I'll tell you. Our twin sister Shay, she announced to our family that she was pregnant being New Year's time. And so it got me thinking. I was like, I kind of want to be pregnant too. And we were going to start trying in the next few months anyways. And we were like, well, it might take us a few months to get pregnant anyways. So let's just start trying, you know? So we start trying, and luckily we got pregnant the very first try. So I was about 6 weeks behind Shay. So we go throughout our pregnancies together, totally normal. And then August comes around. So Shay gets induced on August 25th, and I am not due till October 8th, I believe is the date. On the 24th, I started having pain in my upper rib area and between my shoulder blades and like some headaches and stuff. And so I called my doctor and I was like, hey, this is what's happening. I think I should maybe come in and get my blood pressure checked. And he was like, no, you're totally fine. It'll last the last 6 weeks of your pregnancy. Oh, I forgot to mention, I was also gaining so much unnecessary weight. Like, I know it's normal to gain weight when you're pregnant, but it was like excessive. You couldn't even like see my teeth because my face was so swollen. My ankles were so swollen, which also is super normal in pregnancy, but also cannot be. So I am thinking, okay, I'm fine. So I'm gonna go to Idaho and meet my new niece that was just born. I lived in Utah at the time, so about 4 hours away from Idaho where Shay lives. Don't ask me why I didn't go in sooner, because my doctor told me I was fine. I was like, okay, it's probably normal. It's my first pregnancy. I didn't know any different. Get to Idaho to my parents' house where we're staying, and both my parents, the second they saw me, were like, are you okay? I said, yes, I'm fine. I was popping Tylenol like nobody's business, and nothing was working. I meet my cute baby niece that was born, and I stay at my parents' house through the weekend. And Saturday night comes. Granted, I was up all night with my mom every single night for like 4 days straight, I think it was. And I was like bouncing on a ball, trying to get rid of the pain and everything. And so finally Saturday night comes, and I finally tell my mom, like, okay, we're supposed to leave tomorrow, and I think I'm gonna go into the hospital, to the ER or labor and delivery or wherever when we get back to Utah. For whatever reason, at like 6 a.m. Sunday morning, I had a gut feeling like, no, I need to go into the hospital here, 4 hours away from where I'm supposed to deliver. So we go to the first hospital that I would have preferred to deliver at, but it's totally fine. They wouldn't take me because they didn't have an ER, and you have to be 35 weeks pregnant in order to be taken into labor delivery. And I was not 35 weeks yet. So we go into the other hospital that's like across the street, into the ER. Get checked in and everything, and they start to check my blood pressure. And they're like, we're gonna go get the OB right now, because your blood pressure is 188 over like 120. I can't remember the bottom number exactly, but it was very high. And they're like, we're just not sure how you're okay right now. It's pretty cool. So my sister's doctor was actually able to deliver me, and because my mom asked, and he was like walking in the hospital as the nurses were gonna call him, and he was like, yes, of course I'll see her. So he comes in and he's like, so you're having a baby today? And I was like, excuse me, what? So I didn't have a car seat. I didn't have anything for the hospital, nothing. And he was like, okay, so here's your options. You can either deliver naturally with no epidural because your platelets are too low, your kidneys are failing, your liver's failing, all of the above, your blood pressure's too high, and you have what's called HELP syndrome, which is kind of like preeclampsia, but quite a bit worse. Options were to get induced, but no epidural, or he said my other option was to be put under for no longer than 5 minutes and have an emergency C-section. And I was like, that one. Props to all you mamas who can do natural births. That ain't me. Nope. So my mom calls my husband, who's just at my parents' house, and says, hey, you're having a baby today. Get over to the hospital right now because your wife's about to give birth. So I go back, I get put under, I'm pregnant, and then I wake up and I'm not pregnant anymore. And they wheel her right to the NICU. And luckily she was only in the NICU for 17 days. I know a lot of people have a lot longer of an experience at the NICU, so we're very lucky for that. And I was in the hospital for 6 days afterwards, trying to get my blood pressure under control. In-laws were the best, and they made a trip the same day to from Utah to Idaho, and brought us our car seat and clothes and all the essentials I would need to stay while Capri was in the NICU. So that was very helpful. My whole family was absolutely shocked, and apparently these cute little cousins could not wait to be best friends. They don't love each other right now, but they will. And yeah, they're both baby girls, so we have both our girls are 4 days apart, and we love it. Pretty crazy story, but I just want to say that I'm obviously pregnant again. So even though I had a traumatic experience the first time, that's not how it goes every time. And I have a really amazing doctor this time who is watching out for me and making sure I'm okay.
So I was best friends with this girl, let's call her Sally, and I was dating this dude, let's call him Mark. I've been dating this guy for 4 years at the time, and me and Sally had just became best friends the previous year. Because me and my boyfriend had been together for so long, we decided that we were going to move in together, so we got our first apartment together. About 3 months goes on of me living with Mark, my boyfriend, the love of my life. And my best friend, she is 19 at the time. She got kicked out of her house because her mom said that she needs to get a job and she's so lazy, blah, 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 blah. But growing up, they didn't have any money, and she doesn't have any money either because she didn't work, so she has nowhere to go. She's gonna be homeless. Come on, that's my bestie we're talking about. My bestie can never be homeless. She will always be welcome to come and live with me. So she comes to live with me and everything is amazing. I'm living with my boyfriend and my best friend at the same exact time. Life literally just couldn't get any better. We have game nights at least once a week. We have movie nights at least once a week. Like, life is going great and I am having the best time ever living with my boyfriend and my best friend. It's amazing. When I come home from work one day, I notice something is really, really weird when I walk through the door. I notice that me and Mark's apartment is clean. And with my best friend around, my apartment is never clean. She's very messy. Love her, but she is very messy. So I go to check the guest bedroom and I'm all happy like, oh my gosh, maybe she cleaned for once. Yay, such a change. I go and check in the guest room / her bedroom and none of her stuff is there. Nothing. It's like no sign that she was ever even here. But the day before she was talking about finally getting her own apartment because she finally got a job. So I didn't really think too much of it. I was like, okay, she left and she cleaned my apartment for me. Mind you, at this time, Mark is still at work. Hours goes by and I do not hear from her, and that is not normal with me and my best friend. We talk every second of every day, literally. So I go to try to call her and no answer. So I call her, I'm spam texting her, no answer. I'm blowing up my boyfriend's phone. Please get home. It's an emergency. Please get home. It's an emergency. Just clock out early, please. He gets home, he runs to the door and he runs straight to me and I'm literally sobbing because I think something happened to my best friend. So I'm not even giving him a chance to speak. I am rambling on. I'm sobbing. I'm crying. I'm like, Sally, there's something wrong with her. There's something wrong with her. All of her stuff is gone. The entire apartment is cleaned. It's not normal. Like, that is not normal. The apartment being cleaned with her here is not normal. Like, I don't know what to do. She's not answering her phone. Like, looks at me with the most scared face ever. Like, he is terrified of me or something and says, are you okay? As I'm sobbing, he's sitting here trying to tell me that Sally does not exist and he has never met a Sally in his entire life. So I start screaming at him, this is not funny. This is not funny. You're not going to sit here and do this like something is seriously wrong. Do you know what happened to her? And he's sitting here trying to gaslight me. He's sitting here screaming at me that I am insane and I am seeing things and I need to go to a mental hospital if I am really believing this. At this point, I can't tell if Mark is serious or not. Like, we literally live together. All three of us live together. We have pictures together. So I start to think that he's actually for real. He thinks that Sally was never here. So I pull up pictures with her. And I'm like, here, do you see? Do you see? And he's like, those have to be AI generated. Like, I've never seen that girl in my life. I've never seen that girl in my life. Gianna, you're insane. You're insane. You're insane. Calm down. You're mentally unstable. No one has ever lived here but us. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, literally for the past 4 months, she has lived with us. What do you mean? So I start to believe that I am genuinely going insane. Like, this is my boyfriend. Like, he would never do that to me. We have been together for so freaking long. He would never do that. So maybe I really just need to go check myself into a mental hospital and call it a day. He says he has to go back to work and now he's going to get in trouble because I called him home for something that was not important and I'm just going insane. When he leaves, I literally just sit on the couch and I am sobbing. I am like, what is going on? What is going on? I know Sally was here and she was here yesterday. Like, she lived with us. What is going on? I decide to deep clean the entire house to get things off of my mind. And as I'm lifting up the guest bedroom mattress to like clean underneath of it, I see a laptop that I have never seen before. I open the laptop and there's a password. I try his password that is to everything. And as I unlocked the computer was already on the email screen when I unlocked it. And I'm guessing this is Mark's computer because his password worked for it. Well, when I unlocked the computer, the screen was already on emails and I go to his most recent email and it was from some unknown email and it said, we got her. What does that mean? This is my boyfriend of years. There's no way he's doing something crazy behind my back. Wait, they might be throwing me a surprise party. Maybe? No, probably not. What does that person mean by we got her? Do they mean Sally, my best friend, that I'm being told doesn't exist? They mean me? Or did they get me? No, they didn't get me. I mean, I hope not. Okay, I don't know what the rest of the story is. I just made that off of the top of my head. Actually, I have a pretty good idea for the ending.
My husband wants a divorce. How do I tell him I'm pregnant without being manipulative? But recently, my 32 female husband, 53 male Jordan, told me he wants a divorce. As a bit of background, my husband was a family friend, and after a bit of messing around, I ended up pregnant with our daughter, 14 female. We ended up having a good old shotgun wedding, courtesy of my highly religious family. The topic of families came up afterwards, naturally, and we both made our stances clear. Jordan wants a big family and always has. I'm talking mother, father, 7 children, and a dog type deal. Meanwhile, I wasn't super opposed to the idea of 1, although I felt 7 was a bit much. Anyway, life goes on as we settle into newly married life. He gets a promotion and is working longer hours. We decide I quit my job to start caring for our daughter full time, so we can save more money from our daycare cost. And when she turns 5 and starts kindergarten, we decided to start trying for another child. Well, roughly 2 years into this with no results, I get cancer. We put the family thing on hold and I opt for treatment. My doctor did warn me that the chemo drugs I was on had a high risk of causing permanent changes to my fertility, but we decided to go through with it anyway. There was a rather scary period of time where it looked like treatment was making it worse, but I managed to pull through. Shortly after, me and Jordan get back to family planning. Unfortunately, in this time, it very much seemed like the infertility risk hit, as I couldn't keep a pregnancy. The few times I did get pregnant usually ended with a miscarriage, with the one time I made it to full term ending in a stillbirth. Well, after a few months of this, he tells me that he's sick and tired of getting his hopes up only to be let down, and that if I get pregnant, I should just not tell him until I was 3 or 4 months along, since the risk of miscarriage would go down significantly then. I agree and follow this rule. As of last month, I noticed that Jordan became distant. He takes longer shifts at work, he isn't as intimate with me anymore, and he pretty much ignores our daughter and me completely, while before he always made sure to at least greet and hug her, even if he was running a bit late. And then, about a week ago, I get served with divorce papers while he's at work. He refuses to tell me why he wants one and is insistent that it isn't a problem I can fix. The only problem is that I'm pregnant and was planning to tell him the news the literal day I was served since I had passed the 4-month mark. Now, however, I'm worried about how to tell him. I have to disclose that I'm pregnant on the paperwork since that affects possible child support and custody, and I don't want to lie to a judge. But I also want to tell him myself instead of having him to find out through court. My issue is that I'm worried that if I tell him now, it'll look like I'm trying to manipulate him into canceling the divorce and force him to stay with me. But if I wait for it to be mentioned during the divorce, it'll look like I was trying to hide it and trap him into paying more money for a child he wouldn't be aware of. Can anyone help me out on the best way to tell him without it coming off this way?
Get ready with me while I tell you how a brand ghosted me until I posted about it on TikTok. So I was working with this brand in November and we had a whole deal figured out. I gave them the deliverables, everything was on time. We had a really seamless line of communication and just brand deal overall. They were super happy with the work I was giving them. I was like meeting the deadlines early and they were happy because it was the holidays and obviously that's a crazy time of year. So we didn't have a contract, but in my mind, when something is written in an email, regardless, you know, if it's in writing, I mean, it's in writing. But I was dumb and I will never do a brand deal now without some kind of a written, signed agreement. So basically, this brand ignored all of the payment deadlines. I was emailing this guy back and forth, and he was like, oh, the payment's coming, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, it never came, and I was never expecting it to come at this point. So a couple days ago, I sent them one final email warning them that I would be sharing my experience about them on TikTok, and I would be posting a video warning people not to work with them. Then suddenly I post my video and I have so many emails from this company. This company that I literally thought vanished off the face of the earth was all up in my emails like I've never seen before, saying that they get hundreds of emails a day. They're working with 50+ creators and there's just no way for them to find my emails amongst everything. But somehow the day that I posted the video, after a month of silence, they heard me loud and clear. The email was there, which was really crazy and shocking. And I was like, wow, how did that happen so perfectly that the day that I am posting about you on social media and I have a video up, suddenly you have found all my emails. Mind you, I've never worked with a brand that communicated quicker in general, so I knew obviously that was a lie. They've said many at this point. So I have my video up and they're like, okay, we're gonna pay you, but it may take 3 to 5 days for you to receive the payment. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't care at this point. I don't need the money. Until the payment is in my account, the video will stay up. And I am not kidding. They probably sent me at least 15 to 20 emails yesterday telling me about how if this video is up, there's no way that the company will pay me. And I was like, that's fine. I don't need to be paid anymore. I don't need the money, but I do want to share my story. So it was clear to me that I had the upper hand in the situation. So I was like, I'm leaving the video up. I actually genuinely did not care about the money at this point. It was more about the principle and how disrespectful it is to treat creators that way. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to post about it. And that's what the internet is. If you don't treat people properly, guess what? They're going to talk about it. So again, he said it may take a while because the finance team has to like get the payment through, even though allegedly my payment has been in the system since middle of December. But he was like, it may take a few days. So like, can you please take the video down? And I'm like, no, because then he'll just ghost me again. And this will be another dead end with you guys. So I leave the video up. He's literally sent email after email sending me proof that he has submitted this, like sending me all these personal documents showing me that he has submitted the payment, that the payment is coming, that it will be there in a few days. And I'm like, if you want me to get paid and you want me to stop talking, then I guess you're gonna have to find a way to make this happen quicker because the video is staying up. And then magically, like 30 minutes after he sends a billion emails, I see a little PayPal notification come in. And I'm like, huh, what's this? My full payment from PayPal, from the company that I was supposed to get in December. It's now February 1st when I received the money. And I really didn't want to have the situation come to what it did, but it is so crazy to me that a brand could take advantage of creators like that. And I'm sure this isn't a unique situation and that this has happened to countless people, but I was like, I'm going to talk about it, and the brand should get repercussion for just ghosting creators after they deliver everything that they're supposed to. That is so unprofessional. This is like some people's livelihood. It's not right. So I talked about it. And I ended up getting what I wanted. So long story short, I guess talking about things on TikTok never really hurt that much. Now I have a few extra coins in my wallet, and I think I may treat myself to a shopping spree.
Okay, so I wanted to give y'all a quick story time about how I almost got trafficked by my best friend. Well, literally like set up in traffic. This is why you should trust who you hang around and watch your surroundings at all times. I was dancing in this little hole in the wall in New Orleans, and I had met this girl at the strip club my first night. She was telling me how she was best friends with my best friend, but I had never heard of this girl a day in my damn life. So when I asked my friend, at the time dance partner as well, I was like, hey, do you know this chick? She claims that she knows you. And she was like, yeah, she's cool. You know, she's been dancing here a long time. We consider her like an OG. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm already getting in with the OGs. And if you know, like when it comes to dancing. I actually knew I was literally a baby dancer, like 19. I'm 27 now. She invited me to brunch the next day. Mind you, I didn't stay in New Orleans. I stayed in Mississippi. And I didn't have a car at the time. Like I said, I was like freshly out of high school. And she pulls up in this Mercedes, and she texts me that she's outside. So yeah, I get in the car, and she was already being a little awkward. Like, she was cool for the takeoff, but y'all, once we got on the interstate, craziest shit I had ever heard in my life. One of the questions was like, how would your family feel if you never came back? Like, if they never seen you again? Like, girl, who asks that, first of all? But anyway, I kept going with him. So I'm listening. I'm just telling her stuff. I'm telling her, like, why I started dancing, you know, what's my goal dancing. Because at the time, I was really into, like, just the pole work of the, I cared too much about shaking ass and shit. And she was real fit, y'all. Like, this, I don't know. So also, I started to notice on the ride, you know, to New Orleans, I would ask to go to, like, fast food and stuff. She didn't eat fast food. Like I said, she was real fit, and she had a very strict diet. She's ordering, like, I think like a parfait or something from McDonald's. I was ordering, like, all type of stuff, you know. Y'all, wasn't the mission to go get brunch? Okay. So I'm texting my friend. She has my location. I'm texting her, you know, every time that we, you know, make a little stop or whatever, just to let her know, like, everything's okay. Like, I'm with such and such. You know, she real cool so far. So mind you, while I'm making these phone calls, the girl is also making phone calls, but it's like a man's voice I'm hearing. I mean, every time we stop, y'all, we could literally, like, and I brought my little chihuahua too at the time with me as an emotional support animal. I didn't care at all. I bring my dog everywhere. She would stop and, like, call this man every single time we would stop or pull over. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I told my friend, I'm like, girl, does she have a boyfriend? Like, I'm texting her, like, hey, you know she got a boyfriend or something? Because every time we make a stop, she's calling this man, telling him where we at. My friend was taking too long to respond after I asked her if, you know, if there was, like, a man involved or whatever. Did she have a man? Mind you, okay, we get to the girl's house. Y'all tell me why we walk in and her lights are out. Her lights are out. So I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, what we gonna do if the lights go? You know, so guess who she calls? This man. So she's like, hey, like the lights are out. Like, what are we supposed to do? I'm supposed to be getting ready for brunch, but the lights are out. Like, it's like as if the lights are out was like a fucking key word or something. Then we go to this hotel, motel type of place. Mind you, I keep telling y'all this is like 2015, 16 at the time. So yeah, motels, hotels, it really didn't matter. So we check into this motel, and girl, when that motherfucker got on that phone that last time to tell that man where we was at, I lost it. Because why do you keep calling him and telling him where we at? Why does he need to know every little move? Like, it's not making sense. So we get a knock on the door. It's the man. It's the man. He's like, hey, let me talk to you for a minute. Shorty walks out the door. Soon as he says, hey, let me talk to you for a minute, Shorty walks out the door. So at this point, I'm just looking, I like, you know, like, yo, what's good? And he was like, hey, such, and you're going to need my number from now on. So I'm like, all right. I start putting it, I'm going along with it. I'm like, all right, what's your number? I put the number in my phone, and I'm like, what do I need to save it as? Like, what's your name? This man says, save my number in your phone as King. So at that point, I literally lost it. I lost it. I already knew what was going on. I had, at this point, acted like I needed to go to the restroom. Like I got his number, you know, and told him it was nice to meet him. Was waiting on the girl to come back. When I came out the bathroom, she still wasn't there. It was still the nigga. Even taking a next breath without asking what the is going on. So he begins to ask me, how do I know my best friend? I'm like, you know, no, how do you know my best friend? He's like, oh, she's been one of my girls for a minute. One of my girls, like, what the fuck do you mean? One of my girls. She's been one of my girls for a minute now. Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck have I gotten myself into? I was literally shaking in my motherfucking pants at this point.
Am I in the wrong for sleeping with another person after my wife wanted to open our marriage? So my wife, female 30, and I, male 33, are married for 8 years now. We had a fair bit of ups and downs during our marriage. I found out that my wife had cheated on me with a man that she knew from Tinder. She told me after they hooked up 3 times or so. First, I was shocked and wanted a divorce because cheating is a no-go for me. However, she told me how sorry she was and that she only loves me, and she was really trying her best to show me that I could trust her again. And I did. Now let me introduce you to my wife's best friend, Chris, male 31. They've known each other for 15 years or so, and whenever we had issues, she always ran to talk to him. Chris is single. He's had some relationships, but it never lasted that long. I know he has feelings for my wife. He's always telling me that he wants a girlfriend that is just like my wife and keeps telling her that I don't deserve her. I never thought that much about it because in my head, Chris is kind of like a bootlicker, and I never thought that he had a chance at my wife. Fast forward 6 months ago. We again had our ups and downs, and my wife shocked me with a suggestion for opening up our marriage. I was shocked and immediately told her that I don't want that. At this point, we hadn't slept with each other for like 8 months or so. She was never in the mood. And after trying many times, I just kind of stopped because I did not want to push her. I love being physical, and being without it for 8 months made me really unhappy. So the more I thought about her suggestion, the more I wanted to try it out. So I agreed. She was baffled at first, but in the end, we both agreed and made up some rules which involved there are no feelings involved from either of us or the person that we sleep with. No sleeping with anyone in our apartment. We tell each other when we sleep with someone else, and we always use protection. I have a coworker, female 28, let's call her Sarah. She's a very flirtatious girl, and I always thought that she was a bit into me. One night after our shift ended, we walked to the bus stop together, and I told her about the open marriage thing. She was immediately all ears and was very interested. She joked about if I wanted to shoot my shot, I can always ask her. So I did. I told her about the rules and the feelings thing. She made it very clear that she finds me sexually attractive, but there are no feelings. The next day, I talked to my wife about my coworker, and she told me that I can go for it. Some days later, I went to Sarah's place, and we did the deed. It felt good, but it wasn't the same as sleeping with my wife. The following days, my wife was really quiet, and we didn't talk at all. I knew something was wrong, so I confronted her. I thought it was maybe because of me sleeping with Sarah. Oh boy, was I wrong. She told me that her and Chris had slept together. After hearing this, I effing screamed at her and we got into a huge fight. Not only did she break the rule of not telling me when she was going to sleep with someone else, she also broke the first rule about the feeling. Her excuse was that we never made it clear when we should tell each other when we were going to have sex with someone else. Before it's happening or afterwards. But what really tipped me off was that she was trying to convince me that Chris has no feelings for her. In her eyes, I was overreacting way too much. I didn't talk to her for 2 days now, and I'm staying at a friend's house at the moment. In my head, I keep thinking that Chris is somehow manipulating her so that she separates from me.